Hello everybody, I hope you're all enjoying yourself. Coming to you from Caterpillar Dreaming, where the totem animal is the bush turkey. So, for those in America, I hope you're all enjoying your blood ritual sacrifice. And I do hope that we can return to times of natural law, where we do have things like, totemic ways of living, custodianship of the land, and we do understand things about the natural ways of life, and that we can do things like have totemic animals. So it's my role to protect the bush turkey, and so this is part of Indigenous tradition over here in Australia, where depending on what land you live on and that you're a part of, that you have different roles and responsibilities, and so mine's a bush turkey, which in Australia gets a lot of shit. It's even referred to as bin bird. So it lays 13 eggs in an upward spiral, I believe. And so today what I want to do is I want to continue on with the Neurowarfare. It's going to be a quick one today. Just want to play a few Solari highlight clips, just to introduce a few things, and then in coming days we'll do some deeper dives. So new setup here. So it looks pretty basic. It'll get better over time. And let's see how we go here. Streaming for freedom. All right. So if I do this, let's see how we go.
To start with the first question, what made you interested in this topic and what compelled you to write these books?
Well, I always had an interest in science fiction and started out academically with researching the military-industrial complex. And then I got into autonomous weapon systems, so the robots, the killer robots. And out of that grew an interest in directed energy weapons and also brain-computer interfaces. That is kind of related to the discussion of autonomous weapons, because the idea is that you could pair humans and weapon systems so that you have thought-controlled weaponry. Mm-hmm. And that could be a way of having a combination of the high cognitive abilities of humans and the speed and precision of machines. So that is one of the potential solutions to the problem of killer robots. Mm-hmm. And I saw that there was a gap in the literature in terms of military neuroscience. There was a lot going on in the early 2000s. And I was kind of stumbling across it. And I saw Jonathan Moreno's book. And I got very interested in the topic. And obviously, I came across a lot of mind control literature as well. Mm-hmm. And I've heard about people getting targeted with directed energy weapons. And that made me very curious about what could be the potential reality of this and these claims. So I spent a couple of years writing that book on military neuroscience. And I think it's an important area that requires further research.
So what do you really see as the gap that wasn't addressed?
Well, I think the literature was very much focused on things like human enhancement, so the positive side of things. So how we can build super soldiers, how we can improve soldier performance, and how we can combine humans with machines. Mm-hmm. And that was the less controversial aspect of it. And I think that the big gap here was the degradation side. Mm-hmm. So you can not only use the technology for improving human performance, but also for degrading human performance. So you can use it offensively. Mm-hmm. And that has been called non-lethal weapons or less lethal weapons. And it also goes into other areas such as propaganda, psychological warfare, and those kinds of things. And I think there wasn't really much literature. I think there's still not very much literature on that. And at the same time, I believe it's already operationally used. So it's no longer science fiction. It has moved to the battlefield, so to speak.
That it has. So...
Cultural programming through music created parasocial relationships with individual performers, but to synchronize consciousness at mass scale required something bigger. Events where millions experience identical programming simultaneously. So think about sports or concerts or ceremonies. These serve as collective conditioning events, creating synchronized emotional states. The principle isn't new. What's changed is the scale. I say this as a lifelong sports fan. The athleticism's real, the competition's fierce, the emotional connections feel genuine. The issue isn't the reality, it's how sports evolved into mechanisms for training passive consumption. Modern sports create what might be called the spectator class. Populations conditioned for observation rather than participation. When you spend hours watching others perform while consuming products marketed through their performance, you're being trained for passivity. The same mindset that accepts watching others play extends to politics, following candidates like teams. Even worse, Ukraine versus Russia, Israel versus Palestine, the red team versus the blue team. Pick your side. Defend it reflexively. Ignore the weapons contractors profiting from both. Watching conflict as if you're watching the Red Sox versus the Yankees while real people die. Economics, trusting experts to manage your finances. Health, depending on professionals for wellness decisions. The habit of spectatorship transfers across all the domains, but sports serve as a function beyond individual conditioning. When millions of people watch the same thing simultaneously, something shifts from entertainment to programming. I'd argue the spectator enters a suggestible state. Focused attention, emotional investment, suspended critical thinking, perfect conditions for implanting ideas that bypass conscious resistance. The Super Bowl isn't just a game. It's America's largest mass ritual, especially the halftime show. Madonna's 2012 performance transformed the field into an Egyptian temple. Katy Perry's 2015 show featured mechanical beasts and cosmic symbolism. Beyoncé's performances consistently incorporate esoteric imagery and mass participation, choreographed for synchronized emotional response. The 2012 London Olympic ceremony featured hospital beds, dancing nurses, and imagery that seemed oddly prescient. Some of us remember last year the 2024 Paris ceremony sparked controversies with scenes that were interpreted as mocking religious imagery, especially Christians, creating precisely the kind of cultural division we've been documenting.
And here's the last one.
Here's what I think is happening. They're not just controlling behavior through the institutions, culture, and technology. They're attacking consciousness at the biological hardware level. So the pineal gland is the interface. Calcify it, disrupt it with EMF, keep it suppressed, and you sever the connection between the physical body and the higher consciousness. You create a population that's totally disconnected from the biological apparatus that enables the sovereignty of our mind. If you think about it, they want us dysregulated, disconnected, dependent. So that means the fight is to find coherence at the level of the biological frequency itself. I believe this is why all of the infrastructure we've been talking about exists. In education and media and medicine and tech, it creates that dependency and shapes our behavior. But the pineal gland suppression, that's different. That's attacking the biological seat of consciousness itself, which brings me to the conclusion of really what's at stake here. So the systems we've been documenting depend on the same architecture. It's creating single points of failure where all of our decisions get channeled through controlled infrastructure. But consciousness itself cannot be centralized. It exists distributed across billions of minds. That's why they need the infrastructure. And I believe that's why they're attacking the biological interface for our consciousness. They can't control consciousness directly, so they control the systems that it depends on to function, our institutions, the narratives to process it through our culture, every device that it interacts through, so the tech, and the biological hardware it operates through, the pineal gland. So this isn't about improving your media diet or optimizing your health. Both those things are hugely important. It's about whether human consciousness remains sovereign or becomes programmable infrastructure, whether your thoughts are yours or are they assets to be harvested, whether the biological connection between your physical body and higher consciousness remains intact or gets severed through the systematic calcification and disruption. So what makes consciousness invaluable isn't technology or law, it's this. Consciousness is the irreducible seat of human agency. Without a sovereign mind, choice becomes performance, belief becomes programming, and consent becomes engineered compliance. When external forces determine not just what you know, but how you think, what you value, and how you interpret reality itself, you've ceased to exist as a moral agent. Your thoughts aren't yours, your choices aren't yours. If your choices aren't yours, your life isn't yours. So the systems we've documented don't just extract wealth, they extract the capacity for self-determination that makes us human rather than just really sophisticated livestock. That's the line.
Well, there we have it, guys. And, we could talk about the, this runs deep. It's thick. It's coming hard at us. But as we know, connecting into our heart, soul, essence, going within, turning ourselves inside out, knowing what is ours and knowing what is not ours, knowing that nothing else has the permission to cause us harm like that. But it's not about just, wishing it away. We've got to take the actions in our own lives to make sure that we can, what do I want to say here? Like, there's nothing new under the sun. The more that we, get barefoot, get in the sunshine, recharge our own batteries, learn the different ways that we're interacting with our thoughts, what thoughts aren't ours, how to ground, how to integrate, how to get back in our bodies, how to, integrate from trauma. These are all things that, have ways of taking us off center and being susceptible to these kind of technologies. So it's all happening. We all know that. We can sit here and rant and rave and go, this is what they are doing all day long. But the fact of the matter is, it's time for us to talk about it, to take charge of our lives, to get out of that passivity, to not be pacified, and to have a go, mate. Because the freedom movement is fake and gay. And be nice to the bush turkeys. Much love, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye for now.